Wednesday, November 4th. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
Over Skype, and this is Geeknights. Tonight, a rambling review of Giant Robo, the animation.
Let's do this.
Well, it's Wednesday.
Oh, man, I need it to be Friday. Oh, no, I don't. We're going to convention, aren't we?
That's going to be fun, though.
Yeah, but it's like it's bad timing. But
Why? What do you
I
possibly
committed long ago.
What do you possibly have to do that needs that weekend?
I still don't even have any freaking curtains or rugs or couch or I got so much shit going on.
I thought you ordered a couch.
Yeah, it's not. I'm waiting for it to show up. I got, maybe it could have been delivered on Saturday, but no, now it can't be delivered Saturday. So it's like,
Are you at least going to be free by the time Anime Boston comes around and PAX East?
yeah, I think I'll be okay by then. I just need, like a couple months to, get sorted and such. I still have boxes on the floor, but only a few. I've actually surprisingly unpacked a great deal of things.
Because I'm working on all our Anime Boston stuff. That's the one con we haven't planned a lot yet, because it kind of just works out.
Yeah, I haven't been thinking about conventions at all.
See, this is why I'm here to handle all this. I'm already putting in all our stuff for every con that'll take stuff.
I have been working on the website though. I made big progress. So in I think my strategy now is pretty much, I've been so perfectionist. I mean, not absolute perfectionist, but it's like I twiddle and twiddle and twiddle till it's just right and I put it out there. For now, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a few improvements, and as soon as I get, I basically need like one or two more, then I'm going to put it out there, and then I'm going to make, I'm going to follow the release early, release often, cult of done.
Well, I was
strategy.
about to say at work, right? One of my guys who develops stuff, like he was complaining about not getting stuff done and not
because releasing is everything. A feature,
yeah. That's exactly what I said. He's having all these problems, and I looked at him and I was like, getting the product out is in and of itself a feature. And he looks at me and he's like, that's really wise. And then he was like all inspired.
Yes, we stole all our wisdom from the internet.
I steal a lot of my wisdom from the Greeks too. Greeks and the internet.
You know what? Where I live is a very Greek neighborhood. And actually, if you get off my subway station, there's one of those parks there. It's typical New York park with a playground and a, wall ball and some benches and that sort of stuff.
Oh man, I want to play some wall ball.
Yeah, but you know what it is? It's Athens Park, and there's a Zeus statue, and there's an Aristotle statue, and there's some pillars, and
what kinds of pillars?
Like Parthenon kinds. and then there's like a plaque on the Zeus statue that's sort of like donated by President of Greece or whatever, or something like that. So it's like, oh, it is very cool to go hang out in the Athens Park.
See, now what you should do, because it's the kind of prank I like, is make a little tiny fake plaque that you can just kind of sit on top of it that just says, "Look ye mighty."
The thing is, everything's in good condition there, so it doesn't.
So that's "Look ye mighty."
The pillars are actually in perfect condition, but the thing is, it's sort of like these three pillars with the thing on top, and that's it. It's sort of made to look like a ruin, So I guess you could put "Look ye mighty" on that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's pretty cool. It's a cool park.
At any rate, I talk about anime news. We try to do that, but the Anime News Network, nothing happens anymore at all.
Well, because the only news you can really get, right? You realize most news sites, even like Kotaku or Joystick or anything, all they really do is regurgitate press releases.
Yeah. Well,
so if there's no companies
news,
and they're not doing business or a lot of business, there aren't a lot of press releases. So there's really
no, there is the secondary news about conventions and things like that. But even the conventions, convention season's been done for a while, and now that we're working more with Otakon and all these other cons and staff, I'm learning that more and more these cons don't do anything until not that long before the cons happen. So we're between The only time where there's news is when all the secondary, like, meta news about anime cons and stuff happens. And when that's not
Anime
happening,
News Network is like now it's not really the Anime News Network anymore. Instead, it's really like it's the news about it's just generic stuff that happens to people who may be associated with anime.
No, to me, it is
like someone who wrote a manga got sick.
To me, it's the Anime News Nina site that happens to have news on it and a nice encyclopedia.
Oh, I think definitely they need to start pushing their like columns out into the front more because that's really most of their content now. And I guess we could talk about Anime News Network for a whole bunch, but yeah, there's not a lot of anime news anymore, so you got to do something else.
Yep, but there is a tiny bit of news, but I actually didn't find it on the Anime News Network. I found it on the Scott News Network.
Oh, really? The Scott News Network. That's such a good news network.
We joined the Otakon staff. We joined the panels department, and they have, as far as I can tell, they haven't really done anything yet. Like, Otakon is not gearing up to do anything yet until the new year starts. Meanwhile, the Comic-Con, the San Diego Comic-Con that happens
Comic-Con.
Maybe a month before Otakon, actually less than a month before Otakon this time, I think. Their preview night badges are already sold out, the 4 days plus the special day. And the regular 4-day membership badge is almost sold out already. The con isn't until the end of July, and it's basically sold out.
They're already on the move.
Meanwhile,
Think about that. This one convention, this 4 day, 1 night, 4 day, 5 night event is basically a year-round job.
Meanwhile, I email, our staff contacts at Otakon. I'm like, we want to get these people to do a cool, lecture at Otakon. And they're like, email us back in January.
Yeah, good job,
I'm
guys.
like, great, thanks.
Yeah.
Luckily,
Otakon is always talking, we're volunteer run. We work so hard. We don't get paid. Well, look, you're not really, say all you want. I put up so I don't have to shut up. And you know what? You guys do not work hard enough. Not as hard as people work at other conventions, paid or unpaid. The enforcers work harder and better than the Otakon staffers. So step the fuck up.
I hate to, do this. I hate to rag on Otakon because I do like Otakon and I do enjoy it.
It's great, but I'm just saying, you need to step up the game. That's the game. They've been playing the same game they've been playing for years, and everyone else is getting ahead of them and doing a better job and they're doing the same job they did 5 years ago, which is still a damn good job. It's just the competition is getting fierce.
Yep.
It used to be that you'd go to Otakon and you go to some other con, and it was clear Otakon was just a million times better. But now other cons are getting better than Otakon, and Otakon is staying at the same level of quality. And relatively speaking, it doesn't, measure up so much.
Well, case in point, look at Anime Boston. Anime Boston, it grew so suddenly that
it had all these problems, but they keep stepping up their game.
The last Anime Boston, I'd say, was equivalent to Otakon in everything but scale.
Yep,
in fact, from the meta perspective, it was better because Anime Boston does a lot of stuff for us.
Yeah, they paid us money.
Yeah, they covered our expenses. Otakon's like, yeah, here's a badge.
Yeah, I know, right?
But there is
enough of that. We've gone on that rant 1,000 times.
But there is one convention beyond the San Diego Comic-Con that's already got its act together. So I got to point out, Kineticon is already accepting panel submissions because we're the heads of panels. And
look at us.
We've already gotten some panel submissions, a decent number, in fact, and we're already working on stuff. So if you want to present at Kineticon, follow the link and send us a panel submission, and you'll get an email back. And we'll probably be able to give you a scheduled time a lot sooner than you'd expect.
Mm-hmm. So I don't really have a news because, there isn't one. But I will continue my sort of tradition of doing Geek Bites on Wednesday as long as, there's no anime manga news. Yeah. So I don't have a new thing to talk about, though I could probably think of one if I had to. But what
I'm still watching Tetsuan Birdie.
Yeah. I do want to talk about, though, 20th Century Boys Volume 5, right? So I'm reading 20th Century Boys, of course. And Volume 5, I got it yesterday, right? And I read it last night. And I never thought that I would have a negative thing to say about a Naoki Urasawa book. But really, it's such a fucking tease, this 20th Century Boys. It's dude, you cannot just keep dragging it out like this. You have to, spill the beans at some point. It just doesn't work. And I mean, there's if you're gonna talk about suspense, it's like, sure, you got to lead people along, but you can't like just never have the moment and just keep skipping over it forever. There has to be a point at which you let it go. And it's like, in comedy, even if your joke is perfect, if the timing is off, it doesn't work. And in 20th Century Boys Volume 5, he messes up the timing of the suspense release. He should have released, and he just didn't. He just keeps holding on to it. And it's like it just sort of falls on the floor, but rather than being released. So you still don't know what it is, but now you're just like, oh, fuck it, I don't give a shit anymore, right? I mean, imagine this. Here's the perfect example, right? This is the best analogy I can think of. Okay, so you're watching The Empire Strikes Back.
All right.
Right? Okay, and you're watching it. And, Luke is talking to Yoda, and he's like, oh, I gotta go help them. And Yoda's like, oh, you shouldn't go help them, right? And then it stops, and it cuts to the beginning of the Return of the Jedi, and he's like, Luke is like knocking on Jabba the Hutt's door. That is what this is. And then they start teasing you, like, they don't actually tell you what happened at the end of Empire Strikes Back, but they sort of, you start to infer it, but he purposefully keeps hints very, very small. So it's like,
So what, like you see Luke and he's got like a black arm and you don't know why.
Exactly. That is right. And they're going to basically, it's like this imagine like a whole series of movies, right? But they take the climaxes off the end of them, the revealing, awesome, epic climax moments, chop them all off and stick them all at the very, very end. So you have to watch like 10 movies and then you get like a climax.
However,
I don't even know if there's a climax at the end because I haven't gotten to the end yet.
You know what this could possibly do? When you read the last volume, it's basically going to be 200 pages of orgasm.
It's no good. You've got to give it to me. Monster,
it's the equivalent of
Monster gave you that point in the middle, right? The scene with the speech and the gun and the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
And 20th Century Boys needs that. It needs that scene in the middle of the series, and I didn't get the scene in the middle of the series. It's just like, fuck you. This is where you should have put that scene right here, and he didn't do it.
It's very interesting because it's kind of Wagnerian, because if you watch like Götterdämmerung or any of those Wagner operas, the kind of music he uses, like it grows and builds in tension, like the chords like da 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 da, but they'll never like resolve into the chord that finalizes it. The cadence just kind of keeps building and 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 building forever, and you don't get any release for like 4 hours. Then you fall asleep and miss it anyway.
Yeah, the thing is, you're sitting there and you're like, build, build, build. Where's the release? And then eventually you're not getting a release long enough, and you're just like, oh, whatever. And I'm oh, whatever now with 20th Century Boys. So if Volume 6 is not have that scene that I need, then I don't know. I'll probably still buy the whole damn thing. But still, fuck you. Fuck you.
Though, it's interesting.
They definitely already that fact. It's like Pluto is just like, I was like having a hard time determining like Pluto or 20th Century Boys, but now it's Pluto by like a landslide.
See, it's hard for me to say because Pluto is satisfying my deep-rooted desire for more Ghost in the Shell a little bit, which kind of gives it this artificial boost in my liking of it.
That's true.
And it's not good in a way. It's kind of like that Penny Arcade where he's like, well, there's no substitute for the original Tribes too, but I can prescribe some of this and some of this.
I can prescribe some
like Onslaught or whatever that was.
Yeah, what is that thing? The instant action.
Doesn't matter. It was a poor simulacrum.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like methadone to my heroin addiction. But it is interesting you bring that up because Giant Robo, which we're going to talk about in the other half of the show, it does that same thing where it'll keep like leading you onto something like blah, 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 the tragedy of Bashtar.
They tell you.
Eventually, but they keep...
I've watched the first disc of Giant Robo, which is the first two, I guess I'll call them movies because they're pretty long.
Yeah.
The first episodes. And they tell you shit. It's
they
not
do,
like
but at the same time, they keep hinting, like there's a lot that's left unsaid. A lot.
Oh, yeah, but I mean... 20th Century Boys basically says nothing. nothing.
Yeah,
like,
well,
at all.
at least Giant Robo it doesn't actually say as much as you think, but every time you think, wait, what about, suddenly there's a giant robot, and you forget about all that.
Yeah.
Like
The
you get
thing
all
that
these,
always-
you get all these like other kinds of releases, then you forget that. Wait a minute, what the fuck is Vogler up to anyway?
Yeah, I'll save my Giant Robo talk for the other part of the show.
Yeah, yeah. So, things of the day. I bring to you something very, very sad. There's no video or anything, but it's an end of an era. And this reminded me of so much of my childhood. You kids today, you have like Red Bull and Amp and Rockstar and Balls and Brondo and Power Thirst. And like you have energy drinks and you don't even think about it. They're just there. When we were kids in the 80s and 90s, there weren't energy drinks. There was nothing like that.
It was like this coveted thing. Like we knew that out there somewhere, like I didn't drink them, of course, but other kids,
course.
there was like these mythical like drinks like Jolt.
Jolt and Kick were the
Surge.
only two. Surge wasn't an energy drink. Surge was just a like Mountain Dew that kind of tasted weird.
Yeah, anyway, there was like these mythical drinks that like you couldn't just get at any grocery store. You could only get them in certain special places.
You know where I get Kick?
And they had like 2x caffeine.
There was the Michigan equivalent of a bodega, and this one bodega had Kick, and we used to buy it like secretly. Our parents wouldn't let us drink it. I mean, kids weren't allowed to drink coffee back then, and most of us didn't even like coffee, and there was nothing else. So we'd all drink Mountain Dew and like get hopped up on caffeine from Mountain Dew and the piddly amount of caffeine in it. And
yeah, isn't it weird? Like kids back then, you weren't allowed to drink an energy drink. Now kids can drink however energy drinks they want, but they can't walk down the street at night.
yeah. But Jolt Cola was like this big deal whenever anyone got some. Like, if someone got a case of Jolt, we'd have a party with it. And we'd stay up all night playing video games, drinking Jolt.
Yeah, it was like holy. If someone had a bottle of Jolt in school, it was like holy shit. They might even get in trouble for
Even at
having it.
RIT, when we were there, like Red
Meanwhile, Red
Bull,
Bull's like 10 Jolts.
Red Bull back then was still not that commonly available, and like
Red Bull didn't even exist.
the closest thing to an energy drink we had was like that Dragonberry like Sobe stuff with the taurine in it.
Yeah, I didn't drink that.
I drank that. But this is an end of an era, and I didn't realize that Jolt Cola was based out of Pittsford by RIT.
Oh, interesting.
They filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy. They're like $5 million in debt. It's all over.
You know, there's no reason that had to happen. They could have easily remarketed themselves with all the energy drinks, and the fact that people remembered the name Jolt they could have,
They would have to
helped
have been
them out.
very, very careful. They would have had to market it basically to people born between 1981 and 1989.
I think also that if I don't know what it tastes like, but I'm sure that if they could have worked on the flavor a lot, and they could have made an
Yeah,
energy
Jolt
drink.
tasted like fucking ass.
Yeah,
Oh my
they could
god.
have worked to make an energy drink that tasted good, and that I think really because the energy drinks they don't taste good. I mean,
Red Bull is great and Balls is awesome.
I'm sure they could
And
work to
Power
make something
Thirst
that was like,
has all new flavors like chocolate and gun. But I want to point out to just the disparity of the ages. Jolt's catchphrase was, quote, twice the caffeine.
Yeah, nowadays it's like caffeine free, lots of other shit though.
Well, I mean, it kind of like there was this peak and then it kind of leveled out. I mean, there's like Red Bull and then it all ramped up to cocaine. And then everyone tried cocaine and was like, wow, this is just poison. And then they ramped it back down to Red Bull. And nothing really went beyond Red Bull.
All right, so you know how if you read like the old comic books from like the 50s and the 60s,
I hit you little guy.
a little bit before that era, right? There were always those ones that like like Tales to Astonish or Strange Tales or Tales of Suspense or stuff like that, and a lot of them would involve like some monster, they'd always make up a monster, and the monster would be in that one comic book, and that was it, right? And so here's a blog, the Monster Blog, right, which is a tribute to the monster comics of Jack Kirby. And basically, this tells you about all the different monsters of that category. So there's the imaginary monsters, alien conquerors, aliens disguised as humans, atomic freaks / possible deviant mutate.
Ooh,
benevolent,
deviant mutate.
Yeah, benevolent aliens, dragon creatures, freaks of nature that are possible deviant mutates, hoaxes, humans that are, in disguise or something like that. Human mutants, lab experiment gone wild, miscellaneous, mythological creatures, sea monsters, sentient plant life, strange places, subterranean creatures, supernatural beings, technology gone wild, transformed humans, and unusual objects. So, just to give you, examples of what we're talking about here, we're talking about monsters like Dragoom, the flaming invader.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gugam, like father, like son.
What?
Or Moomba, the wicked wooden statue. Or Rambu, his very name made mankind tremble.
I think we need an anime that is like that.
Sprag, the living hill.
What's it do? Eat people who walk on it? It's not so much a hill can do.
Sprag, conqueror of the human race. Here's the planet. Let's see. Original appearance, Journey into Mystery number 68. Wow, he's actually also appeared in Sensational She-Hulk 31,
What?
32, 33. Yeah, it's a giant hill that is alive.
With the sound of murder? I don't know.
Wait, let's see. In something fear, the villagers watched as from the great yawning chasm there emerged the most fantastic, most incredible sight ever seen by mortal man. Look, for the love of heaven, that thing is alive. It's throbbing, breathing. Keep back, don't go near it.
I somehow imagine all of these monsters looking vaguely like the Claw!
No, they actually
as
look,
big as a flying
like
battleship. It's a flying battleship.
Like Jack Kirby monsters.
Flying battleship.
The thing is, I'm not the biggest Jack Kirby fan in the universe, but I mean, this style of monster is totally freaking sweet.
Yeah.
So.
It's the kind of thing that you either have to do so unironically that you just have to go with it, kind of like Giant Robo or Read or Die, or you have to just completely make fun of it. If you fall anywhere between those two extremes, you're done.
Yeah. But yeah, here's a blog all about those monsters and not much else. So check it out.
Sounds like a pretty good blog.
It's a good blog.
So, the Metamucil minute here.
Very good. We remembered. Okay.
Kineticon panels, submit them.
Zenkai Con.
This weekend.
King of Prussia, Pennsylvania.
Yep, November 6th. Or is it? Does it start on Friday or just Saturday?
It's Saturday and Sunday.
Yes, so November 7th and 8th, not 6th. There's nothing going on Friday. We're not even getting into town until late.
Yes. Also, the book club selection is The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. Only the first one, not any of the restaurants or salmon or anything.
Ooh, I gotta think about what to pick for my book.
Yeah. Are you going to use the same criteria I did, or some
I'm thinking
criteria?
the monster at the end of the book.
That's a little bit easy. I mean,
we got to get these kids to read. I mean,
maybe if we did like a whole collection of kids' books,
maybe Hop on Pop or the Hats.
Yeah, if we did like 10 or 20 of them, I don't know. Any other meta thing?
Yes, we're still using Skype, and Geeknights is all kind of fast and loose until we situate all our business.
I got a new headset. It's a little bit better.
Yep, it's a little bit better. Eventually, we'll do the dual recording and record ahead and all that. And I got to figure out what I'm doing with buying a house or whatever, because the dude I was going to buy this house from apparently skipped town and didn't pay the property taxes, and the bank doesn't know what to do, and the house is abandoned. They cut off the gas. I went over to the house, and it's
maybe they could demolish the house and you could just buy the land.
No, dude. So here's the thing. Land, right? You know Mountain Beacon, and to the left of it, there's this gigantic 2-acre lot with a driveway going through it and nothing in it.
Yep.
That's for sale for $140,000.
Just buy it.
I'm thinking about just buying it and just
put a shack on it.
No, I'll just buy it and then live with Emily and pay rent there or something for a year until I pay off the, measly $140,000 mortgage. And then I own 2 acres of prime land next to the mountain with
See, you know what you could do is, right? You buy it, right? And then what you do is you build a little house, just something that's not very big at all, right?
Building a little house is not substantially cheaper than building a big house.
Really? I mean, not even like a house, almost like an in-law thing, like a garage, a kitchen, a living room.
No,
and a
I was
bedroom.
looking. You realize for like 300 grand, I can build like a 5-bedroom, 3-bathroom like monster house with a gallery and a balcony.
Yeah, I'm talking about like $50,000. Build like a little tiny thing.
Scott, it would
like,
cost
just
me more
live-
than $50,000 to get the architect and the contractor and the sewer connections.
Oh man, that's all right.
Yeah.
Because I was like, if you could just get like, basically an apartment there, right? Then you basically just live in it, and then eventually build a big old house, like a $500,000 house, and then you have this little apartment.
It basically costs the same no matter how big the house I build is within a certain scale. And as my grandpa said, because my grandpa built his own party house a long time ago.
Your grandpa to build the house.
He's a little old for that now.
Yeah.
He turned 80 recently.
Damn, go grandpa.
Yeah, but
You
yeah.
can at least get him to, he could at least talk and tell you what to do.
What he basically told me a long time ago was, if you're building your own house, build a mansion. There's no reason not to. And all I can picture now is Courage Wolf saying that to me.
Is build a mansion.
There's no reason not to.
Build a mansion.
So we'll see. I'm sorting all that shit out. However, if I don't do that, I'm thinking about renting space either in the city or in Beacon, like commercial space, just to have a studio.
Oh, that'd be totally.
Because I got
awesome.
all this money to, like, if I don't buy this house right now, I've got money to do something with, like a lot of money.
I know some places in the city that would be good for that. So.
I'm also seriously trying to find out what it would cost to license the translation and distribution and whatever rights to Sanctuary.
Oh, really? You want to get in the publishing
I'm
game?
really seriously, if I can get it for like under 80 grand or so, I'm just doing it. Jesus.
Really? Wow.
Because think about Sanctuary, right? If you took that, did a treatment of it to get like a screenplay, and tried to sell that as like a 24 style TV show in America.
I don't know if we get. I don't know how much rights we'd get. You'd have to get, big
well, yeah,
lawyers
that's why I'm sorting all that out, and that's taking a lot of my time.
Even if we bought the rights, would we be allowed to just put it out online for free, like we'd want to? Would we be, how much would we be allowed to do? Would we be able to just Creative Commons
Scott,
the thing?
That's exactly what I have to figure out. I have to find the rights and figure it all out, and that's what I'm spending my time on right now.
Oh, that'd be sweet though.
Oh my god! If nothing else, I could just be like, yeah, Sanctuary by Rim.
I don't think you can do that.
It depends on what rights I get.
I don't think you can pay for that.
Just
because
change
the rights to that sort of thing never leave the creator. Only the copyrights go to other people.
We can see what I can do.
Yeah. Anyway,
so Giant Robo. Giant Robo.
I haven't watched the whole thing. I've only watched. It's weird because it's an OAV, right? It's only a few episodes. How many episodes is it?
8, I believe.
8? All right. So I've watched disc 1, which had 2 episodes, but they were long. I think it's like movies almost.
Well, it was an OAV.
It's almost like a TV miniseries. It feels like it's a TV miniseries where each episode is like one of those 1-hour deals.
Well, Scott, it was a high production value OAV with like 7 episodes.
Yeah. And the thing is that second episode though, like the first half of it was like recap of the first episode,
Yeah.
Which is like, really? It's an OAV. Why are you recapping?
Well, there's a reason for that. Let me tell you all the story of Giant Robo before we talk about what it's about. Giant Robo was originally a manga and a terrible live action TV show from the late 60s. Called Giant Robo that has almost nothing to do with Giant Robo the animation.
Okay.
I can't even, there's so much to say about that. I was watching clips of it on YouTube and good God. But suffice
so
it to say.
It's basically just a generic old crappy robot show that happens to have this robot in it?
Yeah, kinda. But it was by a guy named Mitsuteru Yokoyama. And this is from like late 60s, early 70s. So the anime, Giant Robo, the animation, was directed by Yoshihiro Imagawa. G Gundam Imagawa.
Isn't it Yasuhiro Imagawa?
Yasuhiro Imagawa. What did I say?
I don't know. I got to look it up. Anyway,
but he is the G Gundam guy.
Oh, the G Gundam guy. Really? That explains. It's not really like G Gundam that much at all. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But he's the G Gundam guy, and I think he wrote like the script for Berserk and a couple other weird random shows.
Anyway.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, he's Yasuhiro Imagawa. Okay.
Yep. So basically what happened was the producer of such great works as Urotsukidoji and Ninja Resurrection went to Imagawa and was like, I want you to make an anime based on Giant Robo. And Imagawa was like, I'm totally a fan of Yokoyama because, Tetsujin 28 was awesome. So I'm going to make it. I'm going to go all for it. But as they got all the deal together, they basically discovered that they only had the rights to Giant Robo and not to any other character from the Giant Robo manga or TV show.
Really?
So what they did...
So they were going to just do a remake of the original Giant Robo.
I'm not 100% sure on that. All I know is that because they did not have the rights to any character but Giant Robo, they basically took all these random characters from all of Yokoyama's other works and used them as characters in Giant Robo.
Ah, okay.
So also, notice how the opener to Giant Robo has all those robots that are not in the show, and I'm going to tell you, they're not in the show.
It's a Nintendo horse situation.
There aren't even that many giant robots in the show.
Yeah, I've only seen like 2 so far, besides Giant Robo himself.
Yeah,
right?
there are also very few actual giant robot fights, and in fact, I'd say there are more people versus.
They're really reminiscent of Big O fights. Well, or Big O is reminiscent of Giant Robo as it came after.
Well, there's more to this story. So, Giant Robo was begun and first released in 1992. The last episode was not released until 1998.
Oh, it's one of those big long OAVs where they take forever to come out with the next.
Yeah, and they made a bunch of episodes. Then there was a long delay. Then they made the Ginrei special. And then they came back and made the end. And apparently, in the interim between like the last and the second to last episode and all during that period, a bunch of the staff who were working on Giant Robo worked on other stuff. And a lot of the same people did Big O that did Giant Robo.
Wasn't Big O made later?
Yeah, but like the people went on to work on Big O. And they worked on a bunch of other weird projects, like in the interim when Giant Robo was working on and then not working on.
Very interesting.
So there's
there is a gigantic list of like animators on the Anime News Network.
Yes,
so.
there's this gigantic crazy story of how Giant Robo happened. And there's a manga that was made in like 2007, and there was like a remake TV anime that I don't know anyone who's seen from the same time, and there's all this stuff around Giant Robo. And
yeah, there's something on here about Giant Robo 40th anniversary here on the Anime News Network.
So
it says it came out in 2007, 13 episodes.
Oh, yeah, so here's the thing. So people who worked on Giant Robo also worked on Getter Robo Armageddon.
All right.
So basically, I'm going to have to skip all that. We're just talking about Giant Robo, the animation, the 90s OAV, 7 episodes. We're not talking about any other part of it because other than a couple of YouTube clips, I know nothing about it.
Yeah, and we're really only talking about the first 2 episodes because that's all I've seen so far, and we'll talk about it again after I've seen the other pod.
This is not a final thoughts. This is a review. We're reviewing Giant Robo because I think you should all watch Giant Robo, and I'm trying to convince you to watch Giant Robo. If you want the history of it, or, Tetsujin 28 and how that led to this, blah, 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 I guess you should go to Anime World Order, because as Daryl Surratt points out commonly, we are nothing but rank amateurs in the face of His Majesty.
Perhaps. The thing is like, we watched Giant Robo for the first time. We watched the first episode of it anyway. At the RIT Anime Club.
And we walked out before it even ended.
Yeah, well, no, I think we finished that first episode.
No, we walked out and played some games, I'm pretty sure.
I remember watching the whole first episode.
I think I walked out and played Carcassonne or something, and you stayed till the end, and then you met with us later.
Anyway, and back then, we weren't particularly thrilled with it. We didn't feel a strong need to see any more of it, and we didn't see any more of it.
Yeah, and it was so weird how, I watch it now, and I'm really surprised I didn't catch on to or like the show as much as I didn't back then. Back then, I was like, yeah, whatever, some stupid robot show. Why does everyone have superpowers? This is dumb.
Well, I don't think it's dumb now. Like, I guess I did then, but I'm still not as like thrilled with it as you are.
I love this show. This is becoming, like, every time I watch parts of it again, it becomes one of my favorite anime. Like, it's rising in the list. It's in like my top 25 favorite anime now.
Yeah, this is not one of my top 25 favorite anime. I mean, it's all right, but it's not like, oh yeah, awesome. It's okay. It's got some parts to it that I can appreciate, but it's not like incredibly thrilling and amazing and epic and whatever.
It's difficult to describe the plot of Giant Robo because it's a show that begins in media res and ends in media res. It was actually described by a lot of the people working on it as it was intended to be the penultimate battle between the good and evil in this world. Not the ultimate battle. It is basically the penultimate battle. It starts at the beginning of like the conflict before the final conflict, but they never intended to show you the final conflict. They did actually. There's all this stuff where they release like the names of the follow-on series. There's supposed to be like a prequel and then like a 3-day like the end that were never made. And I don't know if they were even actually intended to be made. It was kind of like Star Wars, where Star Wars starts in the middle of this gigantic galactic civil war and ends kind of after one like big climax, but doesn't resolve the overarching story. It's like one tiny piece of this ongoing intergalactic story. Giant Robo is kind of the exact same thing. It starts with this crazy train like battle where there's a guy with a briefcase and he's on a train and he's trying to get away from this other guy with a giant robot. And then bad guys appear and good guys appear and they're all superheroes. And it's just this beautifully animated, gigantic running fight scene through this neo-futurist world.
Yeah, the animation is pretty good. The music, I mean, I guess the sound is good, but I mean, the music, I couldn't even like recognize the song from it. It's not like memorable music
Are you
that
kidding?
I'm humming around
It's a
town.
straight up like classical style custom soundtrack.
I didn't even like notice it at all.
Are you kidding? The music is like the best part of Giant Robo other than the cell animation.
Nah, good music is like the kind of music like you remember it and you recognize it. I couldn't, it's serviceable. I don't notice it. I'm sure it, works with the mood, but it's not music. If you played for me a song from the Giant Robo soundtrack, I couldn't tell you that it was from Giant Robo.
Really? Like really? That's really surprising to me because to me the soundtrack is amazing. It's very, I don't want to necessarily say operatic, but have you ever actually seen an opera?
Yeah.
What opera?
I saw Romeo and Juliet at the Met, and I saw something else I forget.
Because one common thing in a lot of opera, especially later operas, the leitmotif, and there's like the theme or the melody of a different character. And Giant Robo has his own very specific leitmotif, and the music is very like almost too big for the show. Like the show can barely contain the music, and it really to me sets up this almost too epic to be believed premise. It's kind of Gurren Lagann-esque in that the music is bigger than the show could possibly be, and you're forced to either think the show is stupid or ignore the soundtrack or just take it at face value and this is the most epic thing ever.
I don't know. It's to me, I mean, it's like there's no like, like memorable melodies or anything like that. It doesn't stand out. It's just, there's
really?
music
not like that Giant Robo theme that they play every time Giant Robo is about to do something.
No, like I couldn't. If you played it for me, if you played 3 things for me, I couldn't tell you which one it was.
Wow, that really amazes me. Like it really does surprise me.
And then, what else was going on in the show? I mean, the characters, it seems like, like the characters don't really have like, they're not very complex. It's pretty much like he's the fat guy. She's the hot girl who has awesome powers but won't use them because of some reason. He's the kid with a bunch of responsibility on his shoulders. I mean, I've only watched 2 episodes, but the characters, it's sort of like they're just these like, archetypes. And that's
exactly what they are. They're larger than life. The music, the style, everything in the show is so larger than life, both directly and I guess on the meta perspective. The characters are all like the embodiment of some ideal or something, and they're bigger than a real character could possibly be, but they're more complex than you'll give them credit for. You see the rest of the show, they're not as simple as they appear right away, except for Tetsugo, the big stupid axe guy. He is exactly what he appears to be.
I mean, like some of them, I mean, they're cool in their style and such. Like the guy with the Interpol guy with the red coat, he's got a good style.
Oh, you don't even have any idea. His character, there's stuff about him.
Yeah, I'm sure there is, and it's like the, sort of like there's always there's a lot of those characters who sort of like they don't do too much. They've always got that. It's like it's the old Simpsons
The
joke
kung fu
about
guy in the white suit just standing there.
exactly.
I'll put it this way.
There's a whole lot of that going on.
The way I will put it is that every character is kind of set up to be too big, like the show can't contain them. Every single one of them is going to have their Final Fantasy IV moment. The moment where they just like bust out in the most like crazy possible way and fulfill everything they could possibly be. And like it's like every character has a scene like in Read or Die when they take that paper airplane and jump off the roof.
Yeah, I guess kind of, but it's like that's all like action kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Where
it is action. It's action, and I don't know. I don't know why this isn't resonating with you so much. The show is just everything is larger than life and over the top, but it's balanced by this kind of very serious treatment and very serious and poignant use of music and theme at the same time.
The other thing that gets me is like you've got this sort of, mystery going on, right? About, oh, what was Bashtar? And then you find that out, but then there's still other mysteries, like the guy's like, I'll tell you the truth, and then he doesn't because he dies. And, it's like all this kind of stuff. And you want to know, like, what is really going on? What is, how does this thing really work? Why is it this way?
Now, this is a point where...
what happened in the past? And the thing, it's a mystery. I want to know what happens. I'm intrigued to discover the secrets. The thing is, it seems like they just sort of like repeat a lot of things over and over again. Like they show, like I've watched 2 so far.
The flashback to
I've seen like the
fucking
Bashar flashback.
Vogler, and they're like, no, don't turn on the thing. And he's like, fuck you, and he turns on the thing.
I've seen that flashback like 10 times already.
All right,
it's like they just keep playing it.
There is no spoiler here, but that is very, very intentional and done to great effect in this show.
Yeah, I mean, it's, sometimes they, they flash back, they show a little more, a little less than,
No, not really. They pretty much show you.
Stop showing me the same thing. I've seen this before. Show me something new.
They do it on purpose because it's a show that kind of presents to you a reality of the world. These are the good guys. These are the bad guys. This guy is doing evil. This guy is doing good. These people want this. These people want this. These people want this. This is what happened in the past. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. And they kind of, the show, like a big climax of the show near the end is they show you, the flashbacks are always very consistent. It's like nothing changes in them. It's not like Utena where like you see things differently as people learn different things. In this, it's
exactly.
In this, what'll happen is at some point near the end of the show, you see a flashback to like 2 minutes before the flashback you kept seeing. And it changes everything, but not in like a dumb Deus Ex Machina way, but in a, oh shit, really kind of way.
Yeah, but it's I can already sort of figure out what...
Can you? What do you think the deal is? I'm curious, because this can't be a spoiler. You're guessing. You don't know.
What do I think the deal is?
Yes, what do you think the deal is?
Well, first of all, right, they make Vogler to be out like this bad dude, right? Like he, there was an experiment and he purposefully, did the experiment, wrong, and he knew, there was a big risk, and of course the big badness happened, right? And all the other scientists are trying to stop him, but the Shizuma, right? He's basically the whole time he's like, oh, forgive me, oh, I have penance, right? So it is obvious that he actually did something horrible, right? There's no question about that whatsoever, right? So what horrible thing did he do? And it's probably something along the lines of, when they were working on that technology, maybe it's actually Babby's or, it's something like that is, like he's the one who actually did something that was wrong. And there was a reason that Vogler did what he did that makes sense in the context of, some evil thing that Shizuma perpetrated and they betrayed Vogler. That's why they were all famous and he was like presumed dead and, forgotten intentionally and something like that.
What I will say is that, you pointed out that you didn't think the characters were terribly complex, and there's definitely the implication that the plot is not terribly complex other than the, I guess, artificial complexity of the Baphodads. I'm going to call them the technology, Shizuma drive something, I Vogler something. But
that eye is just what's up with that?
Oh, that eye. Oh my God. There's a scene near the end where a character says to another character words to the effect of, "What did you expect me to do?" And that is possibly the saddest moment of all anime I've ever seen. That ranks in the top 10 of the saddest moments ever. Just when the character's like, what did you expect me to do?
All right.
But I guess the show, like, there's the tragedy of Bashtarl and all these mysteries, and they kind of reveal them all, and you start to, like, they're
Unlike
trying
20th Century Boy.
They're trying to figure out too, like, what is the deal with the special samples, and the bad guys have 2 and the good guys have 1, and oh shit, if the bad
you need
guys
all 3 to really make shit happen.
oh shit, if the bad guys get all 3. But they actually, the characters kind of smartly are experimenting, and they try to figure it out, and stuff happens, and I guess everything is completely self-referentially consistent. And
It's got in a 7-episode OAV. If you're not consistent, that's a big
but
problem.
it's also consistent it's not just a technobabble answer at the end. Like, it's not just the blah, 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 and we save the day. It's a lot more complex than that.
Mm-hmm.
Really sad, too. A lot of people die.
It is. Yeah.
A lot of people.
That's sort of obvious. Like,
Yeah.
that there's no mystery about
Well, I mean,
that.
this is a show for you guys out there where the tragedy of the past that no one will talk about killed like 2/3 of the world's population.
Yeah.
And what
The other
they're
thing is
fighting
that
now is far worse than that.
The one thing that it's weird because that main mystery they pay a lot of attention to, which is weird because usually what other shows do is they'll have like this core mystery, but they'll spend a lot of attention to other things and they'll only get back to the core at the very end, right? Whereas Giant Robo is basically constantly focusing on this core mystery and they're pretty much ignoring like all these other things that are out there. Like, for example, Giant Robo himself, right? The kid's dad made Giant Robo, right? And is whatever, but like they don't who is the kid's dad? They don't even talk about that at all. Like it barely gets any screen time. That question.
Well, I mean, part of that, look, it throws you in media res, so you have no idea who the experts of justice are or who Big Fire is. We'll talk about Big Fire in a minute. We have to talk about that especially. What do I want? Big Fire, Tomini! Ah!
Right.
I love Big Fire. They're possibly there's something about a name like Big Fire and the way
it's a good name. There's no doubt about that.
And the way and the fact that, they're like, yes, Big Fire, but in the context of the anime, they're like the BF group.
Yeah, I know. Right?
So did you get to the point, not really a spoiler, where the eye of Frankenfon-Fogler activates and like everything starts shutting down and it cuts to all the Big Fire bases all around the world having trouble?
No, it just it's floating around.
So there's this scene where you kind of learn.
It didn't activate that much. It only activated a little bit.
Where you kind of learn, I guess, the extent of Big Fire's evil network, where like stuff starts shutting down all over the place, and it's even hurting Big Fire. So suddenly, in the main Big Fire headquarters, you see like Big Fire Antarctica calling in. They're like, everyone's freezing to death. What do we do? And then like Big Fire the Moon calls in. They're like, everything's fine here. Fuck you all. But then you see like this hint. There's a Big Fire base that is under the White House, just waiting to invade it. Like that, like Big Fire has bases in like everybody's closet, as far as I can tell.
How many people? If 2/3 of the world population died, how many people can? It's like half the world must be in Big Fire.
That's what's great about this show. Like, you've only seen the beginning. It just gets more and more over the top. Like, it's as though Big O in the first episode punched someone with that punch, and in the next episode, like, grew another piston on that punch. And by the end of the episode, like, used the entire Earth as the piston to punch another evil Earth.
Okay.
That's kind of what happens in Gurren Lagann, but Giant Robo doesn't quite go that far, but I guess ideologically it does. Because really, notice how, like, even in the first couple episodes, like, Giant Robo doesn't really do too much. The giant robot fights are basically Big O punch and it's done. Yeah. But the characters fight like giant robots. Like, the characters are like
they fight like Street Fighter people with more superpowers.
Yeah, let it go a little bit further, where a guy gets shot the way a giant robot would get shot, and basically his whole torso is missing, the same as if a giant robo had been shot. And he's basically standing there, and he's like, well, you may have destroyed me, but blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, blah blah blah.
So at least you
It's,
got to see my favorite villain in all anime ever now, Albert the Impact.
Did I see? I guess
The
that's
guy
the
with
guy
the
with the eyeball.
steampunk kind of thing on his eye.
Yeah, I saw that guy.
That guy gets more and more and more awesome as the show goes on, and he's
It
possibly
seems like the people he's with are sort of incompetent, though.
yeah, but at the same time, you haven't met all of the Magnificent Ten because there's
I know,
the,
right? They're like Magnificent 10. It's like I've only seen 2 or 3 of them. Where's
yeah.
the
And
where's
when you
the
meet the
rest?
rest of them,
You've only got 7 episodes.
like the experts of justice are all great, and later in the show, you meet like 10 more experts of justice, basically. But then there's the Magnificent 10, and they're so much cooler and more badass than the experts of justice.
Yeah, I mean, there's that one Magnificent 10 guy with he's on like the Oni mask, and he just doesn't say anything.
Cool. What's his name? That guy's scary. He's the scariest dude because you feel like
I always
he's-
like that kind of character, that guy who doesn't say anything. He's obviously mysteriously, you don't know what his powers are. He's just quiet and off to the side.
Yeah, when Albert the Impact's flunky is like, you fucker, when they have that evil meeting, and then Ko just kind of shows up behind him. He's like, I'll kill you. I won't even blink.
Yep.
It's like, I can kill you without expending any effort. And Albert's like, all right, settle down, guys.
I was like that kind of guy. You know, I basically, if I was Mamoru Oshii, I wouldn't have a dog. I would have a quiet guy who's mysteriously and incredibly powerful. Or, it seems like he's incredibly powerful. He just doesn't do anything.
So I got to talk a little bit too about the head of, the guy who's obviously the chief, the boss. Gatekeepers basically had the same guy in charge, as far as I can say.
Yeah, I mean, well, Big Fire, the generic Big Fire guys are very similar to the Gatekeeper. You know, there's a lot of Gatekeepers parallels just in general.
I guess I kind of realized, because I liked Gatekeepers when I first
it's that
saw
same
it.
sort of thing. There's a team, of good guys. They're all different archetype characters, right? And there's a bad organization that has a bunch of identical henchmen, and they have this really sort of dramatic, like, go get him, yes, beat the bad guy kind of, mood about them. There's a lot of it's sort of it's common in a lot of Japanese things. Like the giant robot shows of the old, they have that same thing going on.
I guess what I was saying is that Gatekeepers, I liked it when I first saw it, and now I saw it long after I gave up on Giant Robo. Now that I see Giant Robo and I'm older, I realize everything I liked about Gatekeepers was something that was basically either homage or parody or stolen from Giant Robo. Like that kind of
I don't know
aesthetic.
if it came from Giant Robo.
Or at least from that kind of show.
These are old tropes.
At least from that kind of show. But you've got to admit, the Commander they're basically the same guy. They're just...
Yeah, I mean, of course. The commanders there's pretty much two kind. Most commanders in anime, like ship captains, right? There's always exceptions, but a lot of them are
Captain
that kind.
Global.
Yeah, the Captain Global kind, where they sit there quietly and they're real smart.
Yep.
And then there's the Gatekeepers kind, which is like, attack.
This kind is not just attack. This kind is the attack. I have a full power that I am not using. I will only intervene if all else is lost. It's like he's just waiting there with his fist, like eventually I'm going to punch someone.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of that, don't use your, full power, only use the amount of power you have to.
Well,
like Ginrei, it's like you don't use your power, Ginrei, ever. You shouldn't have to.
Well, in Japan, it's an insult to use your full power at any point.
Of course. But, you have to slowly amplify your power and use stronger and stronger attacks until
They don't.
win.
Like, I'm going to spoil.
That way you never have to.
I'm going to spoil one small thing. The chief, because, everyone's a superpower. Notice how, I don't know if you saw when the Greta Garbo, best name for a ship ever, gets attacked, and Albert is, like, busting in, and you see, like, all the normal dudes attacking like they're superheroes, basically, like minor superheroes. Like, everybody has powers in this show. At one point, a bunch of normal
Maybe
dudes...
that's part of the plot, too, Maybe that's, something about the Shizuma drive, something has to do with the fact that everyone has freaking superpowers.
But there's a point at which a bunch of normal dudes form up like they're forming a combining robot.
Just like Gatekeepers?
Yeah, they all, like, form together just like that. It's only for a second. Like, you might even miss it because it's so quick, but it's totally there.
Mm-hmm.
But the chief... his power, because everyone has a power, is basically that he can charge up this punch. Like, he can just be like, I'm going to punch you now, you little guy. And if he punches something, whatever it is, he can punch the Earth. Earth is dead. Earth is gone. He has the biggest punch, and that's all he's got. He can do it once.
Wow. Okay, so on Amazon.com,
Yeah.
right, you can get all of Giant Robo, the complete thin
With
pack.
or with, so without the Eye of Vogler that I have.
That's right. The Eye of Vogler is actually $70 on.
Wow. I'm glad I bought that thing for like $30 at Otakon.
Yeah, so you can get the complete thin pack of Giant Robo for $15.
Dude, for that, even if you don't like Giant Robo,
For the price of one DVD, basically, you can get an entire series.
you might as well buy it, guys, because we've been really.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even super excited about it like other people are, but I mean, for $15, it's totally worth it.
Jesus, I mean that's.
Oh wait, actually, the $15 one, right? It says
Yeah.
pre-order on that, right? But there's a economy pack, which looks like it's the same exact thing, and that's $20. But that you can buy right now.
Yeah, you probably don't need the Eye of Vogler unless you're.
Yeah, the Eye of Vogler is Giant Robo, the complete edition premium eyeball. Parentheses, premium eyeball, close parentheses. It's $72. But there's someone selling a used premium eyeball for $51.
What did he use it for?
I don't know.
But I don't know. This show, especially, I'm curious to hear what you have to say when you've seen the whole show, because they kind of reveal everything, and the end
I guess
is,
depending what the reveals are, it determines a lot about what I'm gonna think about.
Plus, remember,
if it's revealed and it's like, oh yeah, whatever, I saw that coming, then it's like, okay.
this is the show.
Whoa, I never would have thought of that, and what I didn't think of is awesome.
Remember, way back, we saw this Trigun AMV, and in the beginning of the AMV, it shows a scene from Giant Robo where a dude is like talking to the main character, and then he just shoots himself in the head.
No.
You don't remember that? I'll show it to you after the show. Basically, it's the scene where a character from Giant Robo, who you will recognize, is talking to the kid who pilots Giant Robo, and he stands there and he says a bunch of stuff on top of a mountain of discarded Shizuma drives, and then while smiling, he just shoots himself in the head.
All right.
That's from Giant Robo. That's kind of to give you an idea of where the show goes.
Yeah, someone's gonna. All right, that's interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know. We should just stop. We've talked about this. The show, I think, is great, and Scott doesn't think it's that great. But I'll say this: if you consider yourself an anime fan at all, you should watch at least one episode of Giant Robo, because one, I think a lot of people who think they won't like a show like this will probably really, really like it. And
yeah,
at the
I can
same
definitely
time,
say, while I don't think it's so amazing, I can definitely tell that most people looking at this will think it's totally awesome.
But also,
especially anime fan type people.
even if you don't like it, you have to have seen it, so you can at least talk about it or shows like it. I mean, if you've never seen a show like this, how do you know you don't like them? And how do you know they're bad? And how can you even say they're bad? How can you say anything about anime?
Yep.
The show is great. I want to watch it again. I'm watching it with Emily, actually, right now.
Uh-huh. How can you watch it? You gave me the discs.
Yeah, well, we temporarily stopped watching it so you can watch it, and then we're going to continue watching it.
All right.
Plus, I still have the third disc and the Ginrai special, which you should not watch.
Uh-huh.
It's just kind of funny and dumb, but it's kind of a travesty if you already know how Giant Robo ends to watch the Ginrai special. Imagine if Cowboy Bebop had the Spike and Vicious and Julia go to the beach episode, after the show. That's what that's like to watch. This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geeknights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com. Or you can send audio feedback via Audio. Just click the link that says Send Me an Audio on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.